Hello everyone and welcome back. Today is a very special video. You might ask why this is so special. I will explain. I have been getting more into audio post-production recently. I've been doing a bit of sound cutting, I've been doing a lot of dialogue work, and I figured I would go over some of what I've been working on with the rest of everyone else. Post-production audio is generally a very big, very extensive task. It's all broken down into 5 main sections of audio. Today we will be going over these 5 parts, what they are, why they are all very important, and generally what their function is. And we will be starting with the BGs. Now, BGs, or backgrounds, can be thought of as the audio setting of your production. Each shot of your production, be it in a video game, a movie, a TV series, what have you, takes place in a certain environment. And each scene has its own unique background audio. A busy city would have a lot of car sounds, an open field might have some wind ambience, some leaves rattling, and a beachside cabin would have the sound of the waves and the ocean breeze, and all those other sounds that make the scene sound natural. Now these are very important because if you were to just remove BGs from all of your production, whatever it is, a lot of what your intended audience is watching wouldn't seem very natural. They'd be wondering, well, why are there no cars in the background? Why can't I hear the sound of the city? Why can't I hear what I'm seeing on screen? So it's very important to have these sort of audio settings in your production. Now, when we're working for BGs in film, we generally cut them in blocks. We'll cut the BGs, we'll put them in, and it'll look like this big block of multiple audio files that starts and stops when the picture cuts on screen. So you'll have this one block of BGs for one scene, and then you'll cut, it'll have a different block for the next scene, so on and so forth. However, it can get a lot more dynamic when working with sounds in the video game industry due to the differences in how these two versions of media are produced. In a film, you're working to a picture, it's all recorded, you don't have any control of what you're seeing or interacting with on screen. In a video game you do, so what we do is we actually take a piece of audio and we'll link it to a physical thing in the game. So if, for example, you have a beach in your game, what we'll do is we'll link the audio to the beach, so as you get closer to the beach, you hear it more, you move away, it gets quieter, etc., etc. Next up is Foley. Now, Foley is possibly the most interesting of these 5 parts, in my personal opinion, simply for how it is created. Foley itself is the sound of your props and your footsteps and your cloth movement within a production. A cup getting set on a table, characters shifting in their chair, writing on paper. All of these are parts that would be put into your Foley tracks. Now, a cool thing about Foley is there's actually dedicated Foley artists out there that create these sounds in real time, which I find a lot more entertaining to watch than most films. In fact, unless it's a quieter scene or a more intimate scene where they're really up close and personal with the characters, you might not even notice them half the time. But the cool thing about Foley is that without it, just like BGs, the entire production just seems off. Again, you'll be wondering, why can't I hear what I'm seeing on screen? You'll be wondering, why was that cup not making a sound when it was put on the table? There's nothing there. It just seems unnatural. In some selective cases, a producer might decide to turn down a bit of Foley extremely low, or just get rid of it if it doesn't seem important, if it doesn't catch someone's eye on screen. However, those are very selective and not a good reason to remove Foley from your production entirely, so it's a very important piece of audio. Next up is music. This one's one's very self-explanatory. It's music. Sometimes it's made to order by composers and orchestrators. Other times it's stock music you get from Adobe Sounds or another stock audio website. There are plenty of them out there. Either way, this is usually the emotional reinforcement of your production. It helps to drive along and enhance certain aspects, especially the emotions of what the producer wants people to feel while they're watching. A dark scene on a beach can feel romantic depending on the music, or it can feel very scary depending on the music. And yeah, of course, the setting and how it's portrayed on the screen matters as well, but the music really helps solidify the emotional attachment of the scene. Next up is sound effects. Now, sound effects are the more exaggerated sounds of your production. The breaking of a window, the shooting of guns, punches, rock slides, cars crashing and driving around, animals, stuff like that. A lot of sound effects are designed in a studio or recorded in a field, so they can't really be replicated by Foley and Foley artists because of the intricacy of what's needed to make them. There's a huge, absolutely massive industry based around going around recording accurate, unique sound effects and designing them in the studio. Now, there is a little bit of overlap between sound effects and Foley sometimes, depending on what you're working with. For example, say you have a flag fluttering on a screen. Say you want it to look and feel super dramatic and you want to perhaps slow it down a little bit so it feels dramatic. Well, you could use Foley, and you could get a Foley artist to just rub a bit of cloth, make that sound, but you might also want to design the sound to be a bit more impactful, in which case it would actually be a sound effect. It would be made by a sound designer, it would be cut by an editor, something like that. And so in some cases like that, it really depends on how exaggerated you want it to be. It depends on the scene as well. If, for say, your entire screen is just staring at this flag, watching it flutter, you definitely want the sound to be more exaggerated, so you might not be able to get away with it with just some Foley. And the last part of our 5 today is dialogue. Now, dialogue is, of course, the spoken words throughout your production. These parts are recorded on set or in the studio and are later sent to the audio guys in the back to be cleaned up, processed, edited, etc. Sometimes if a line that was recorded on set isn't good enough, the quality is just a little poor, or the actor didn't get quite the right emotion through, the actor will actually be brought back into a studio and they will record what is called ADR, or automated dialogue replacement, where the actor will basically watch the scene, they'll be put in an isolated booth, and they will redub the dialogue over top of what is being recorded on scene. This is very useful, especially if they just don't have the time or the money to get the set back up, get all the other characters in, get the cameras back out, stuff like that. Now, of course, I shouldn't have to go over how important dialogue is in a production, because, of course, without dialogue, you basically don't have any characters. It's not so important if you have, say, a silent film or something along those lines, but it is very important in pretty much all forms of media. Now, you put all 5 of these parts together and you get your entire media audio post-production. Now, not all of these parts will always be handled by the same person, and in fact, once a production gets fairly big, you'll have people working on individual parts on their own and coordinating with a production mixer to get everything done properly. So you might have a sound effects guy working on all the sound effects, or 2 or 3 depending. You'll have the Foley team working on Foley, you'll have somebody cleaning up all the dialogue, you'll of course have composers and producers working together to figure out what music works best, and you'll have somebody working and cutting on the BGs. Now, in smaller productions, you might have only 1 or 2 audio guys, but once you get bigger, generally you'll start branching out, having people specialize in certain areas. And you'll get all this together, and you will get all this audio together, and you'll send it to the post-production mixer, which mixes the entire film, and then presto, you have a new piece of entertainment. Now, I wanted to do this video since I'm starting to get more into the production aspect. I wanted to share what I know, what I'm learning as I go, and show you guys what actually goes into the audio for all the media you watch every day. If you guys do have a specific part of the post-production process you want me to go through, do a deep dive on, or a specific part of these 5 that you want more details on, let me know in the comments below. Make sure to leave a like as well. It really helps out the channel, and I'd be more than happy to make a special video for you guys in the future going over specific parts and individual processes. Anyways guys, I will see you next time. Bye-bye.